Well, this is not the first time that I'm banned from traveling. It's several times since the past 2, 3 years that I was banned from traveling. And most of the time for no reason, just administrative order by the security institution that was banning me from traveling. This time is by the court because of some tweet I made criticizing, calling for gathering or criticizing some figures. And I was told the ban has been lifted now, and this is what I'm going to do. 5 cases against me so far in court, and all of them to do with my speech, with my freedom of expression, of statement I made in Twitter account, calling for people to fight for their rights, calling for people to go and protest for their rights, or criticizing the Prime Minister. It's all about my Twitter, 5 cases. I spent almost most of my last 2 months in jail because of that reason. Bahrain does not allow freedom of expression, does not allow people like me to speak in a national TV or radio station, does not allow independent journalism or media, does not allow people to criticize government in the internet. Hundreds of people were detained in the past 1.5 years for their expression, for a tweet they have made in Twitter account, for a statement they made in the Facebook. And the Bahrain regime are not tolerant towards people's opinion, towards criticism. We had a lot of uprising, continuous uprising, but it was not that big. There were real repression. People really feel marginalized, and human rights violation, crimes being committed. And what we had in February did not surprise us, like what happened in Tunisia or in Egypt. What happened in February is something everybody were waiting for it. But what surprised us is the big scale and big participation by people. And this continued, it did not stop since February. So it was not yet into stages. It's one, I think, stage. It's been going and going and going and going. Nobody thought, none of us, government, opposition, outsider, that revolution could last that long with the same strength and power. But now it's a year and a half, and we can see that with the same strength. Government seems to be very tired. Economy is collapsing, but people are standing with the same strength. We have seen them last February. More commitment, more determination. Men, women, old, young are in the street fighting for their rights. It's the first time we could have the people with as much determination to fight for their rights. I think it's for the first time in our history that we have a revolution or an uprising go for that long and with that wide scale, and where most of the population are taking part in a way or another in it. It's not like the case in Libya or Syria or Tunisia or Egypt. Many of those Western countries seized their future with the regime that guarantees the flow of the oil, guarantees the American base, guarantees their security in the region, where we cannot, they don't know about us how we're going to look like after if this revolution succeeds. So that's why the United States and UK, who are the strongest influential here, are with the regime. Although some statement here and there, shy statement criticizing the king or the regime or the prime minister, but in reality they are supporting the regime. So in that complicated situation, you cannot go more than that, because you have gonna have the whole world against you. And we are the most peaceful revolution so far in the region, where people were very peaceful and all. But we think we could, the continuation of the situation as it is, we could weaken the government, weaken the regime. And this is what we are doing. But we can't have just like that and move and change the government. Well, we don't want that. We want something gradual changes that people get adopted to it, rather than a radical change where we don't know what is the future. And we know also that we will not have the support of the international community. As you know that they have double standard foreign policy towards different revolution. I don't give up, and I don't believe in giving up. And I try to empower people and teach people not to give up. It's a new movement in this country that is being led by youth people from different political, religious background. It's different than now one leader leading decide yes or no. It's men and women, young men and women in the street, and who are don't seems to be going to give up, especially inspiring from other revolution. I don't believe that we should go back at any time, and I think we should continue. And we have reached a stage that I would continue all my life struggling for democracy and human rights rather than stopping. And I would never, and I will ask people not to give up, even if that it cost us much more than what it did, our life, or jailing, torturing. We've paid high price, so for that is one reason that we can't go back for just nothing. And we believe that we should not be ruled like we did in the past 200 years as slaves. We want freedom, we want justice, we want democracy. And we know all those nations who fought for justice and democracy, they paid high price to achieve their goal. And we know that we have to go through the same process, and we will do that. It's a struggle of nation for democracy and human rights. Against the repressive ruling elite that they've been ruling for the past 200 years, having the wealth, having the power, and distributing the government institution jobs into their members, and they don't want to change that. Now, okay, they can't convince the world that that's a movement for democracy or for justice. They have to say something else, so they can get the support of the international community. So from one side, they are linking us with Iran, taking the advantage of the bad relation between the West and Iran. From the other side, try to present us as bad guys, violent people, which is not the case. We are a most peaceful revolution fighting for democracy and human rights. Even the Molotov cocktail you were talking about, it is in return of people being fired and killed, and it's a bigger crime being committed. So we are against Molotov cocktail, of course. We are against any source of violence, but you have to put it in the right position when you talk about it. Not as the government just they try to isolate you. Oh, it's only about Molotov. No, it's about crime committed by government, and it's a reaction of some youth people to it. The youth movement, a lot of people in the scene, they were not in history of the country, maybe always the leaders were religious and or communist or leftist, either left or right. But now it's a new movement with young people, mixed young people, leftist, liberal, religious, fighting for the right of, allows more room for women to be there. Always there is, as a conservative society, as a religious society. Women always had part also in Bahrain, but still should have had more part. But now I think it's different. It surprises everybody, of course, participation of women. it's been encouraged by everyone, by men, women, by religious, by conservative, by leftists, the participation of women. And we do encourage that. So every time we talk about the participation of women. We don't want things to end up like in Egypt, only in the revolution, but then we don't see they disappear, or Yemen, or many places. Here we will make sure that women always take her position in the what's going on in the country. So yes, participation of women were amazing, and I'm proud of it. It's something I speak about wherever I go. I have no other job now than my people, my country, my nation, and the goal we are fighting for. I have left everything. I did leave my business, either sold it or transferred it to family. And I decided to spend my rest of life fighting for people's rights, empowering people to fight for their rights. And that's why I don't have anything to lose, and I decided to continue struggle. And I do believe inside me that it's difficult, but I know this difficulties has to be moved by somebody. And I think that I have the strength, I have the energy, and I have people who listens to me, and I could influence, and I could pressure, and I will use those things for the better of my nation. And I will pressure the government to give up power and wealth for the people. I will influence people. I will empower people to struggle for their right and to fight for their right. It's some beliefs I had always on me. Now I could influence people with it. I'm going to use them. And I have strong belief that changes will come. It could take longer time, it could cost more than expected, but it will come. But somebody have to be determined and committed to the goal, and go with no stop until we reach our goal. And I am doing that. I always wish that some reforms comes out of the ruling family, although we have not seen yet, but I hope one day that we have a reformist. As many ruling family in history have reformists to stop the repression of the leaders of the family. But it seems that all the family now taking the side of the king and the prime minister. I'm sure what they're doing now, the ruling elite, it will not serve the interest, it will not serve the benefit of the ruling family in the long range, because they're creating more hatred toward them, more people are against them than ever. So my message to them, you have to understand the world is changing. People want to live in freedom, justice, and democracy. You cannot continue forever treating people like slaves. You cannot continue forever ruling with the country like your own company or farm. No, people living there. People have the right in fair distribution of wealth, fair distribution of power. Either change yourself, reform yourself, and change yourself, or people will change you from the system. I feel proud of those people, young men and women in the street, and I'm inspired by them. And my always message will say, continue doing your struggle, continue doing your work. Me, my family, the entire world are amazed with the work that you guys doing, putting your life in danger, fighting for rights, fighting for freedom. It's something going to be in history of our country. So remain in the street, remain fighting peacefully, make sure that it remains peaceful revolution. Don't give up, don't go out, don't come back home. until we make sure that we achieved our goal that we called for last 14th of February. Well, unfortunately, government could mislead part of the Sunni community by frightening them of Shia revolution or whatever they call it. But they should be sure that we're fighting for the rights of everyone, Sunnis and Shias. We're fighting for a better future for Sunnis and Shias. We fight for our new generation to have a better future, Shias and Sunnis. So they will realize sooner or later that government mislead them. But we are always welcoming everybody to join our revolution, to fight for the freedom of everyone, fight for justice for everyone, fight for government that work on justice and equality and freedom.